Okay, everybody, this is Sheets, and although PGA didn't exactly work out perfectly last week, I put myself in some good positions to make some big cashes, and I'm going to continue doing my same process as I did last week, which seemed to work out and bring me into some good lineups. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is literally Monday. You know, people say literally Monday. Of course it's Monday. It's the difference between figuratively Monday and literally Monday. In any case, what I'm going to be doing is first, I'm going to just do a review of the salaries for this Thursday. This is without even analyzing lineup construction, without any looking at any content, doing any research, just relying on my own knowledge of the players and what I know where they're playing. And just seeing what my initial thoughts are. And what I find is that first I look at my initial thoughts, that'd be on Monday. Then between now and tomorrow, I see some projections. I get a sense of ownership. I get a sense of construction. And then Bobby and I will do a Tuesday review of what we like. And then on Wednesday, when I really have everything kind of settled in, Bobby and I will go and do a finalized look at things. One interesting thing I do know is that the next 2 weeks are going to be held at the same course, which is, we'll talk about this next week, but next week I obviously believe there's an advantage to the people that play both weeks. Yet on the other hand, if ownership reflects that, maybe it turns out that could be a fade, but we'll see. We'll see how much buzz that narrative receives over, between week to week. The other thing is that this course does have some tricks. On the one hand, there are 4 par 5s. So, long hitters are going to do well there. Yet on the other hand, the rough is very, very thick. The rough around the green is not so forgiving either. So it does put a premium on getting into those fairways and getting on those greens, which does give a little bit of an edge to, I don't want to say the shorter hitters, but let's just say the more accurate hitters, I guess. So we'll see. So we're going to go look from the kind of the bottom up or the top up. We'll go look at the top up for a minute. So again, I really haven't looked at anything yet. First I'm looking at is, so there's no Bryson DeChambeau. He's taken a very well-deserved week off. And Thomas and Rahm and Cantlay and Koepka and Scheffler. It looks like Morikawa also have come from their week off and are back in business. So my first kind of instinct is looking at this is that, I guess the days of Koepka being 8,400, which we had him a few weeks ago, are just kind of over. So we just have to get used to the fact he's going to be priced along the same lines as Thomas and Rahm. And I do think that Thomas is, that class of Thomas is probably just going to be a little bit better than Koepka. So I don't know, but it doesn't really stand out. You know what I mean? Like my initial thoughts on this top 5 or 6 is that it is pretty efficiently priced. I mean, they have the 5 or 6 best golfers, I guess, in order. You could argue that Koepka should be more than Cantlay, or Cantlay should be less than Koepka, or whatever. But I do think those top 5 are pretty well where they're supposed to be. And Hideki, as much as I trashed him on Twitter on Saturday that he couldn't make a putt or whatever, the guy's really good. He's very sharp. His irons are strong. And he's always in there. So I think he's probably fair where he is. The one guy that I see right here who's going to get a lot of publicity, I believe, is Justin Rose, because for 2 reasons. Number one, he has a very strong course history here, and number 2, he has been very sharp this year. So I think the combination of those two are going to drive his ownership pretty heavily, actually. And as I also always note, I don't know, I can't really prove this, but I do believe that the difference between, say, 10K and 9,700 is, as far as ownership goes, is much wider than that 300, just because of the psychological barrier of paying 10K as opposed to 9,700. So I feel as though, like for example, to compare Rose to Matsuyama, I feel as though Rose is going to be much higher owned compared to Matsuyama than maybe he should be. Maybe Matsuyama also has a little bit of recency bias in that he really didn't do very, very well on Sunday. He's very, very good to get back sort of in contention, but Sunday he really was just awful. So maybe that could leave a bad taste in people's mouth. So that's my first things to know, those top guys. Hovland is, they brought him back down from 10K. And it actually looks pretty efficient, because at 10K he was in a much easier field. But he seems fair there. The guy who stands out right away is Morikawa. And again, I haven't played DFS PGA seriously for all that long. But, so I might be speaking out of turn here, but Colin Morikawa, to me, is just as good as these guys above him, if not better. All the way up to, is he really worse than Cantlay? Or Koepka, or Scheffler, or Hideki? I don't know. I think Morikawa, he's awesome. So I think that's my first look, is that of this first panel, I guess that you could call it. I call this the panel. This is what DraftKings can show me in one thing before I scroll. Looks like Morikawa is going to be my easiest play, if you want to know the truth. Fowler is fine. He was really, really good one of these days this past weekend. Not so good another, but he's fine at 9K. But Morikawa, for now, looks like a very, very strong play. So let's go down another panel here. Let's take an overall view of this next group here. And just let me see if I can just eyeball this. And there you go, right? Patrick Reed has been just punished in the pricing metric. I overpaid for him at 10.5 this past week, and they really want me to play him again. They moved him all the way down to 8,800. Sanjay M down to 8,900. I think both those look like very, very strong plays. Leishman, Speed, fine. Kuchar, I just haven't played yet. Neiman, see, this is the way I look at it. Like, Neiman's been good at 8,400. I just don't think he's in the same class as him and Reed. So I would much rather pay the extra 500, I guess, for him and Reed. Woodland is back and very cheap at 8,300, I think. So he's another guy that first look just kind of stands out. Matt Wolff, very, very strong, obviously, this past weekend. Yesterday notwithstanding. Maybe he fell to the pressure or whatever it was, but he's obviously really good. 8,100 back off of that performance and that kind of heartbreaking Sunday, if you want to know the truth. I don't know if I'm willing to all of a sudden make him on par with these other guys. Like, Wolf was good, but am I really going to pay 8,100 instead of 8,300 for Woodland? Not that you can't play them both. That's, again, just my first instinct. Fitzpatrick is back, which, I've been playing him the last couple of weeks. But if not mistaken, I think I played him much cheaper before. Does it even say? That's so funny. It doesn't even say what his DraftKings price was. But I think he was cheaper. I thought I paid 7,100 for him, but maybe not. I guess he's fine. So as far as this kind of panel goes, again, Reed, Woodlands, these are the guys that kind of stand out. All right, so let's go scroll down the next panel. So we get put Watson up on. He's the last guy I did, right? So okay. So this next group, the under 8K group. My first comment looking at this is that Scott Scheffler was fairly tilting. He was a +7 on Thursday and then came back with a -7 on Friday as chalk. They did reduce his price to 7,800. And it's a stronger field, so it makes a little sense. But I would take a shot at him at 7,800. That would be my first kind of look here. Jason Day played better. He had that one awful awful hole where he chunked a chip shot after the golf cart passed along his line of vision and got in his way. But overall, he was better. Cameron Champ I don't think this is the course for him, but he was better this week. But that's fine. So that was my first instinct of this kind of panel here is I might go back to Schebler, maybe back to Day a little bit. I'll leave it to Bobby to do the Ann analysis. And, maybe, I don't know, something that I said just resonates with me where I said that, it's kind of tricky around the green. If that's the case, maybe someone like Mickelson could excel here because he's always he always can pull those rabbits out of the hat around the green. He's been doing that for years and years and years. So maybe Bobby was really, and a couple of people were really high on Mickelson last week, and he gave him a good run for a couple of days. I don't know, maybe him at low ownership, if in fact he is low owned again. Coke Rack at 7,600 kind of rings a bell down here. So let's go look at the next panel. Okay, my first instinct, again, this is literally, I haven't left for 2 seconds, is maybe this is like recency bias or whatever it is, but I'll go back to these same guys from yesterday. So Scott Stallings is down to 7,300. Pat Rogers is down to 7,300. Both those guys are, pretty good. Stallings, again, I think he's very, very strong. Varner down to 7,500. Again, all these guys are priced down because it's a stronger field than last week. Bryson DeChambeau's absence notwithstanding, got a lot of other guys back. But I think that these guys are right back in play, like Varner at 7,500. Hubbard didn't, Hubbard didn't really impress me too much. Like maybe Stallings, maybe Hubbard. Rory Sabatini, I had zero of him. I knew I was very, very confident he wasn't going to do anything this week. And he did not disappoint me. He was awful. So I don't know, maybe we'll go back to him, but this looks like a very reasonable panel here. Like Shane Lowry, even at 7,400, maybe a round or two, get some to make the cut. Not bad. I mean, not a bad panel. So let's scroll down past Rogers. Let's see what we got. Let's see if anything goes at the lower 7K. Oh, my man, Chris Kirk. He was so good for 2 days, wasn't he? Man, I was I wouldn't say chirping, but I was really happy about that. Look, he's a good guy. He overcame a lot. He did show that he could play some golf. I don't know if I'll go back to him again. Maybe, I don't know. But he didn't get a decrease in price. He's actually more expensive than last week. And that's only because he did well last week, obviously. So in a tough field, I don't think I'm going to do it. Who else down here? Keegan Bradley. He wasn't bad until I needed him to be. Until I needed him to be good, right? So maybe at 7,100, he could be a punt. I'm not a Zach Johnson guy. Ches Reavie, haven't played him yet this year. Maybe you could try him again. Trinigal again, 7,300, Tringali, whatever. Grillo. I mean, so all these guys, again, look okay. It's going to come down to construction and see how much of them we need. Let's scroll down a little more. So under Bradley, now we're into there's a lot of guys right in this same price range. This is amazing how bunched all these guys are. Stropka, everybody's, the Millionaire Maker's hero this week. I wouldn't go back to him. Merritt, he put up a couple of good rounds. He was in contention, sort of. These are just the same guys, 7,100, that you could sprinkle in. It's the question of whether you're going to need them. Kyle Stanley again, stuff like that. Let's go down. Any real cheapies down here? Get Von Taylor again. Sam Burns had a good round. You can go back to Neesmith at 6,800. You can go back and lose more money on Munoz at 6,800. You can do that. Yeah, so all these dudes in the sub 7Ks. I played some Bramlett this week. He didn't do anything. I don't think I'm going to get down to here, if you want to know the truth. So just to finish this off. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, Shank. Killing me. Yeah, so I had a really great lineup with Shank in it at 0.8%, and he was awesome until Sunday. Then he, you know what, it was so tilting. He was literally made 15 pars in a row. And then I was thinking, okay, at least let him finish off with his pars, and then he can, get me a birdie free round, and actually a bogey free round, give me a couple of points. And on 16 he bogeys, which is tilting enough. And on 17, I think he eagles, just to really rub salt in the wounds. But 6,500, why not? It just depends. Again, it depends on whether your construction makes you need him. Okay, and then you go down to all these other dudes. Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to get down to here badly. 6,200 again. Yeah, so I'm not playing any of this stuff down here. So again, it's going to come down to what kind of construction you come up with, is whether you need to go down to these 7K guys or not. Instinctively, I have a feeling you don't need to, but we'll see. So, like, for example, like if you start with something like, just for example, I'll do this more tomorrow, something with Morikawa and then, what did I say, Patrick Reed, I mean, who I think are real standouts. Then you go Woodland. I mean, you're at 7,900 a player. I mean, what you could do, I mean, you could do this however you want. You could play nothing but decent guys in this range and go full balanced and not have to go down there at all. Like if you wanted to, I'm just off the top of my head, you do Im also? No, now you have to go down to the 7,400s. But if you wanted to do, who's some of the guys we talked about? Scheffler, and then Fitzpatrick, and then, I mean, just example, Jason Day or Dahmen or Ann or Ustays, Mickelson even. So, I mean, like, you don't have to go down to those 6,800s if you don't want to. But if you did, like if you wanted to do this, and let's just say you wanted to pick one of these studs from the top, pick Thomas, just make it harder on yourself. So now you can't have to go down to 6,300, so you're not going to be able to do it. But if you take one of these guys out, like let's say you took out, Morikawa, just for example, then you can play, then you play three of these 7,200 guys that we kind of talked about, like Stallings, Rogers, guys like that. And that could be one construction, right? So you take one stud, two of these, high value mid-range guys, and three of these 7,500s, and then you don't have to go real cheap. So what it's going to come down to, I guess, is how much you value these 7,800 guys above these 7,200 guys. Like, for example, if you think that Stallings, Rogers, I'm just throwing names out. Stallings, Rogers. Let's see, want to use Stallings and Rogers? Yeah, Stallings and Rogers are not that much worse than, say, Scheffler and, Dahmen or Shufflin and Streaman. Then you don't want to play necessarily that third non-stud. Like, you don't want to go play, for example, Morikawa, because you don't really gain much, right? I mean, now you're playing the 7,900 guys. Instead, you could go and play, Justin Thomas, who, let's face it, is better than Morikawa. And then you're not sacrificing much. You're still playing these decent 7,200 guys. So I think my first instinct is that's where it's going to go. It's going to be how much you value the 7,800 guys over the 7,200 guys. Because if you do value them higher, then you can afford to play someone like Thomas or Rahm or, any of those guys, along with these two, value-ish 8,800 or 8,500 guys. Whereas if you really like those 7,800 to 8K guys, then you're going to need to probably, just go full balanced and not play Thomas, Rahm, Cantlay, those types of guys, and have it look, again, kind of like this. So just to remind you. And then it would kind of look like, then you'd have to, And then what you could do, I mean, you could play Patrick. You still like, you know, Scheffler, and then what did we say, Ann or somebody like that? And then let's just say that Scheffler, you really don't like him. Let's just say that you feel comfortable with one of those low 7K guys. Then what you could do is you could pay up for a guy, not pay up, but then you could pay for who's a good 8,300. Let's just say Neiman. So you can't afford, well, you could afford Leishman actually. So if you did it like this, then you could play, like for example, Im, and then almost, and then you could play Neesmith, for example. So if you felt comfortable with one of these cheap guys, then you could go full balance and get like 5 above 8K guys. And this looks, I mean, like for example, I mean, this could win, you know, something like this. If you get Neesmith to make the cut, this could definitely win, like, for example. Just for kicks, we're going to put this in because can't let this win without me having it. Okay. All right, so that's my initial look, and I don't even know if I'm going to post this today, but it's more for my own benefit. And if I do, that's great. And if not, then I'll just make it part of, I don't know, maybe we'll post it all at once. So maybe the Monday and the Tuesday at the same time. I don't know. But that's all I have for now. My initial look for Thursday's PGA slate. And see you guys tomorrow.